Hey guys, Kevin Ploe here from Yahoo Entertainment. Welcome to Build Series, the show where anything can happen and usually does. Our next guest is a hockey player turned actor who plays the lovable dude Dud in AMC's compelling and wonderfully weird comedic drama Lodge 49, which returns to air this week for season 2. You may also recognize him from Overlord, Everybody Wants Him, 22 Jump Street, Black Mirror, and having some of the best genes in Hollywood. Wyatt Russell will be joining us in just a moment, but first, here's a look at season 2 of Lodge 49. Guys, Wyatt Russell's in the building, Hey, man.
How's it going?
How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Well, congrats on this show, on season 2. I premiered last night, I believe.
It did.
This week, yes.
It did. It premiered.
This show is fantastic. I've just recently discovered it. You are fantastic in it. I love this character, Dud, so much.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
excited to talk about him. His optimism is just infectious.
It's infectious.
I gotta say right off the bat. But you know, it's these days in today's landscape, I think it's a triumph to just get a show on television. It's a whole nother world making one that's really good and gets renewed and builds the type of fan base that the show I think is quietly building. I mean, the people who have seen this show love it. How did you know that you were onto something special when this first came to you?
I never know if I'm onto something special or not. I just know what I like. And when it came across my computer screen, it just seemed like something that was very odd. It was very different, but it was very unique to my sense of humor. It was very unique to my sense of storytelling. I didn't know you guys liked the show that much. So it was something that I wanted to be able to help tell that story. Mm-hmm. I never thought it would get made. I never thought it would be something that AMC would put on the air because it's very difficult to sell in a one sentence sort of log line. And so that when I read the tone of the show and you meet the creator of the show, they really matched up. The writer knew what he was writing. He knew what he was creating, and it was in his head. And as long as I knew it was in his head, that the world, the kingdom of Long Beach, and this very specific tone was in his head, that I could help him bring it to life. And that's what we've been trying to do in season 1. And I think season 2 expands on that in a really interesting way, in a way that fans of the show will enjoy a slight tonal shift, which I think is always nice to see in a show that doesn't stay stagnant from 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons.
When they first brought this to you and you were having those conversations you mentioned, were there reference points that they threw out? Because it doesn't really feel like anything else on television. But you know, to get a show made, sometimes you have to say like, oh no, it's the Matrix meets 12 Monkeys, or some sort of like combination of random things.
Yeah, that's a good one. The Matrix meets 12 Monkeys. That's an awesome mashup that
I would watch it.
I'll never go see.
Gonna pitch it. Oh, you want to see it?
No, I'm never going to see it only because it's never going to get made. I would go see it if it got made. No, what they said was what was on the page. So they didn't pitch anything, which is great.
Yeah.
When you can be sold anything. And people buy lies all the time. And then they get on stage and stage being the screen, and they perform it, and it doesn't really add up to what people promised. This was a promise of a feeling that came through from the page. So the feeling to me was everything. And as long as we could accomplish that tone, then you'd be able to go away from it saying, well, I don't exactly know how I felt, but I do know that it's the most different show on TV. Mm-hmm. And I do feel confident in saying that it's there's nothing else on television like it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't point to another show that's been on the air. Besides, there's a show called Flowers. I don't know if you've seen it. It was an English show, and Sonya Cassidy, who plays my sister, actually brought it up. Jim had never seen it. Peter had never seen it, the writer and creator and showrunner of the show. I'd never seen it. No one had ever seen it, but there's a show. It was on, I think it was a BBC show. Olivia Colman was in it.
Okay.
There's 2 seasons. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. It's probably the closest I've seen, and that was a recommendation from Sonya. She said it's kind of like this show. It's nothing like it, but in terms of straddling death and darkness and sort of these big questions we have about life, and comedy on a surface, broad level. It parallels to that. That was not a hit show or anything, but it was a really good one, but nothing else that I can really point to.
There are so many things going on sort of in the background in the seams of the show, but I mean, I think at its forefront, it's so character driven. And that's not to say, and there's so many incredible, complex characters. Thematically, I think maybe trying to sort of all find their ways in life, especially Dud. That's not to say nothing happens. There's plenty. It's not Seinfeld. There's plenty that happens. But let's talk a little bit about Dud. I mean, was this a character that you could slip easily into? Do you relate to him, or do you feel like you guys were cut from the same cloth? Obviously, your life is much more on track than his. He's struggling, to say the least. But how did you relate to this guy?
I didn't relate to the way he saw the world. Actually, I see the world a little bit more. I guess a little bit more black and white. There are some things I see as wrong and some things I see as right. But what was interesting was I had come from doing another movie where I was sort of it was a darker guy, and they'd have to remind me that when he's in a tough situation, he's not mad, he's not angry about it. He deals with it optimistically. So his power is he's smiling through the negativity and shining a light of optimism on stuff that like is really the core of who he is. So it was difficult at first because it's not how I deal with every one of those situations. I'm not quite as nice as Dud.
Yeah. But do you share any of that optimism?
I do. I think that at my core, I'd like to believe. Other people might think differently. that I believe in people. I do. I believe that people have the ability to do unbelievable, great things, and that at the end of the day, you have to believe in people. You can't live a life of cynicism and think that people are like, yeah, people are stupid and everyone's wrong, and it's like, well, not really. That's not really true. Like, obviously, how the hell would this happen if without people who are really smart and interesting and saw things to move you forward and live a better life and live in a better world, blah, blah, blah. I do look at life that way. I try to. Yeah. Not quite as naively as Dud, but I think that there's a lot to be learned from a person like Dud, and that's sort of what the show has to offer in a way as well. Is this is a guy who he sees life in a very specific way, but he's not trying hard to be that way. He comes by it honestly, and there's things I'd like to be more like Dud about.
I know I'm not the first person to mention this, but it feels like there's some dude in Dud. Was Lebowski an inspiration at any point for you?
No, and I knew it the minute I read the script that people would be like, if I played the part, that they'd say that because I look like the guy. I just fucking look like him. And the shorts and the sandals and that. So there's an aesthetic that I get. But when you actually look at the storytelling and who the character is, they're actually complete opposites of each other. The dude is an unwilling participant in his story.
Sure.
He does not want to be doing what he's doing. He gets caught up in this scheme with a millionaire and his wife. It's all fucked up.
Somebody pissed on his rug.
And it's a great movie, but he's not a willing participant in his own story.
Yeah.
He's not dictating anything. Everything's being dictated to him. Dud, on the other hand, is a searcher, and he is a willing participant in his story. Everything he does is moving himself forward. He is his own engine. No one else is making things happen for him or to him. He's taking all of the information and going out there and doing it himself. So they're complete opposite characters at the core of who they are. So once you get past the clothes and this corner of my eye, then you'll see that they're not really the same character.
I also love the culture clash that sort of follow into the show with this guy who you would not expect to walk into one of these buildings and become a member of one of these fraternal organizations, the eponymous Lodge 49 in this case. These organizations feel somewhat like relics of the past, but I know they do exist. They still exist. I think my grandfather was in one that was maybe not quite as like masonry, but it was like the Polish Falcons of like
is that what it was called?
Western New York. Yeah,
Polish Falcons.
Yeah.
That was
that's a national organ. It's a fraternal org. But did you
join a lodge? Yes.
Did you did you spend any time in a lodge?
No, I didn't. I didn't spend. There's a couple of ones that I've thought about. I was like, oh, it'd be fun to be like an elk, you know. But I didn't think it was important to go research or do any of that because Dud didn't know.
Right.
Well, he doesn't know any of the stuff that the lodges
right.
do. He's learning as they go, and it's all the Lynx is a fake order. It doesn't actually exist, but it might in the future. Who knows? Some people start it up. I'd join. It's not. But it was. It's an interesting thing because when you look at these lodges and what they mean to communities, it does reflect. That is reflected in the show. Mm-hmm. There's a large part about these lodges that weren't just about like dudes going to meet and drink. That was a large part about it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it,
for the Polish Falcons.
Especially, the Polish Falcons sound like they could throw down. They could throw it back. The interesting part that people don't really know about is that they're very charitably involved with the community. That's a big part of the heart of the show, is that these lodges used to be cores of the community where they have bingo nights and they have all of these different things for people to come in the community and be together. Now with phones and email, internet, you just can't be together as much as you used to be because your time is being sucked away. Not bad or good, I don't know, but these are disappearing, and I think it's nice to have a show that sort of throws you back into like 1998 in a weird way, where everyone's got a flip phone and you don't really see people using their phones or
right.
So it's interesting, and it's fun to be a part of a show that sort of highlights that.
You mentioned the tonal shift heading into season 2. In general, tell us a little bit about what has you excited about fans seeing unfold in season 2.
I think that anytime a show has the balls, I guess you could say the balls, to change, to have something, and it worked. It worked pretty well. We were all happy with the product, and instead of going, well, some people didn't get it. Some people didn't like it, and for the people that didn't get it, I was always like, totally get why you didn't get it. Not your fault. It's just not your type of show. Awesome. There's a million other shows. Go watch them. For our show, it's specific to a type of storytelling. If you like it, you're going to love it. Guaranteed, I promise. I won't let you down. And what's cool is that instead of going the other way, which was, oh, we're gonna tell like an existential story, but now we're gonna try and tell it linearly. Like, no, you can't do that. You have to. You've bought in, and you've bought into a specific type of storytelling. If you've ever read a Thomas Pynchon novel, Crying of Lot 49, or Gravity's Rainbow, or there's other ones. Those are the two ones that I've attempted to read, which I can barely fucking get through without Jim. But I told Jim before, I was like, I need your like spirit guide to help me through this. And he's like, just read 100 pages of Gravity's Rainbow, and you'll start to like get it, which I did. And it's sort of like that. There'll be times where you're like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. And if you just sort of experience it and feel it, let it happen to you viscerally, you'll start to feel the idea behind the show. And that's an existential way of telling a story until you get to the end. And it's one of those things where I really truly do believe that in our show, you won't understand what the show is about until the very, very last frame of the last season. That's the goal.
Okay.
That's the goal of an existential show, is when you get to the last frame, you go, oh, fuck, right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All that shit that was leading up to it didn't mean anything. And it was all just part of how we live our lives and the ups and downs of our life, but that won't land until you get to that last part. So that's what I'm proud of season 2 for continuing down that path and not being afraid to tell a story that way. I'm proud of being a part of it.
It is a sublimely weird show. Yeah. And I was wondering, going into season 2, I was wondering if that was going to be played up or played down, and that was answered within probably 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Once Dud is lying on that hospital bed, and there's a sequence happening around him. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching right now? You guys have seen it. So clearly you guys are embracing the weirdness of it all.
Yes, and
you're leaning into it.
We're leaning into it, and those are the things that it doesn't just not mean anything. When you're looking at what that orboscope is, you're seeing those murals mean something,
sure.
and they mean something to Dud, and you sort of find out as you go through the series that they each mean specifically different things to different people. Again, it's all part of the journey towards the end, which we're all living and doing right now. But it's sort of a fun way of going on a ride, and it makes you. You're on a ride, and then that little sequence is meant to be kind of like you're on the ride, you're experiencing it. Come along with us.
We were talking backstage about how passionate that the fan base is for this show.
Yeah.
There are theories online. I've seen people really lean into things like the tarot cards and the meanings there.
Yeah.
Are you curious? Do you read any of that stuff?
I know what some of them. I know what some of them mean, and there's a lot of Easter eggs in our show.
Yeah.
It's meant to be that way. Jim doesn't put things in the show just to put them in the show. Mm-hmm. Everything in the show has a meaning. The motto of the Lynx is "as above, so below." Mm-hmm. So meaning everything that you see on the surface, everybody that I'm looking out here on today, all of you interesting people with totally monotone faces, you all have very interesting stories underneath what you're living today. Mm-hmm. And you go out and everybody goes out and they try and give their best face and they smile and they're happy and they go out for their job interview and like it's all going good, and except underneath my fucking anxiety and my shit I'm losing my mind is happening. That's part of what our show shows people, which is that there's two sides to everything. There's two sides to everybody. There's two sides to life, and you just got to dig a little bit to be able to get someone to open up to you and not be afraid to open up to somebody else. It's part of the magic of life. And if you don't embrace that quality, which the Lodge is there to do, that's why the Lodge exists, so that people can embrace that quality in themselves and in others, then you're not really experiencing the full breadth of what life has to offer. And, that's sort of the motto, in a way, of Lodge 49.
That description, by the way, reminded me of a very specific moment that I loved so much in episode 1 that I feel like kind of sums up the tone, at least to the humorous tone, the humor side of the series, where, and I apologize, I can't remember the character's name, but he's getting a performance review. And
Gerson?
Yes, and he's dressed up for it, and he's told, you didn't have to dress up for this, and he goes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. The writing is so brilliant on this show. Yeah. Are there going to be are there going to be questions answered? In terms of in season 2. I mean, obviously.
What questions specifically?
I mean, I don't want to ask anything specifically, but in terms of like the order and there, I feel like the most questions are coming in terms of the mythology behind that and what exactly.
So there's certain things that will be more of the surface. The scrolls, we're going on an adventure, and the scrolls are real. Yeah. And the scrolls are going to save the Lodge because the scrolls are worth money. A lot of those questions that you have that the characters have, by way of the characters having them, we have them, might turn out to be false paths. They might turn out to be questions that you think will be answered, and then at the end of the day, you'll go, "Oh, that question was just the answer led me down this false path," and that's the answer. That was a bad question to ask yourself, and so that's part of what the show is, right? Yeah. And that's part of what Jim's really great at doing. He'll take you down roads and not necessarily lead you to a direct answer to your question, because it just doesn't happen in life that way. Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
And there's part of where we pick up Dud is in a moment like that, after he's been attacked by the shark. Spoiler alert, season 1 for whatever. Yeah. He gets attacked by a shark, and he sees a vision of his father, and it's like, oh my God, I in that moment of hell and pain and death, I've found the light, and I know that I'm going to be okay. I know I'm on the right path. I understand. But in that place that most people get to when you have a cathartic experience, and everybody's had a version of it, where you feel it's euphoria has overcome you. This euphoria of, I know, I got it, I figured it out, I know life, I have it in my hands now, and I know what to do with it. That lasts for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then afterwards, you start to realize that, oh my God, that thing that I thought was gone and good and out and toxic and I got rid of was actually the thing that was propelling me to do the things that I'm doing now and be the person that I have become, that I actually am enjoying being. And it's a scary place, because you have to either go off and become a new person without that baggage that defined you and was your narrative, and was, anytime anybody ever asked you who you were, Dud's first answer was, well, my dad just died. That was his identity.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't. Now he's gotten rid of that, and he has to move on without it. You have to make that choice of moving on without it, or going back and being in a warm, safe place where that's, something that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life. And that's obviously not a good place to be, but some people prefer it.
Paul Giamatti is an executive producer on the show. I think we can say this because the episode aired. He does.
Yes.
We do see him pop up very early on in the new season. It seems to tease he's coming back.
He's coming back.
Yeah.
We don't know as what or where or when.
Or who.
But I can, or who. But I can but I can say that Paul's he's one of the best people you'll ever meet. He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And as far as him just being an actor and working alongside of him as an actor, it's total dream. It's a dream to work with the cast that we get to work with every day, and he was like a cherry on top of all that. So we felt extremely lucky to have him. That's an understatement, but we really did. And when you see it, I want there to be a spin-off movie of when you see him in the show. And I can't say what it is, but I want there to be a. Yeah.
Well, executive producer in this business can mean so many different things. I mean, how hands-on has he been throughout the course of the series?
I don't really know, to be honest. I imagine I don't know. I've never asked him, like, what do you do, Paul?
what do you do here?
I just see your names on the scripts, but I don't see you fucking doing anything. No, I don't know. I think Paul probably had a lot to do with notes and stuff on some of the first scripts, but part of what's great about him as an executive producer is that he read the material as an actor, probably, I would imagine, reading it going, this is great shit. I would love to. If I could be in this, I would have loved to be in this, but I'd love to produce it. That's me being Paul, and then saying, well, these guys really know what they're doing, so you go do what you guys do, and then bring back the product, and there's total confidence in the people's ability to execute. So it's pretty cool, the vote of confidence.
Have you gone wine tasting with him?
No.
Big Sideways fan.
Yeah, are you? Yeah.
Gotta ask.
I have not. Yeah. That movie's lived on in such a great way. It was such a great movie.
So brilliant.
But yeah, no, I have not. I have not gone wine tasting.
Well, the last time we talked, I told you this, and you already know it. You come from one of the coolest families in Hollywood. No, in the world, being the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. And one of the last things I asked you was the best advice you got from them. So today I'm going to ask you, what's the worst advice you got from your parents?
That's good, because no one's asked me that before.
Thank you.
I don't know. What's the worst advice? I don't know. I guess I selectively probably wouldn't even remember it if they gave it to me. I don't know if I've ever really gotten like bad advice. I'd have to think about that because I don't know.
I'll ask you next time.
Yeah, that's good. That would be like I need to prepare for that question.
We're gonna open it up to the audience for a couple questions. Okay. Who's first? Right there. Hi.
Hi. Big fan. Originally, I was going to ask a Big Lebowski question about heard the comparisons, but now I'm curious because you brought up such a great point that the dude is such an unwilling participant and Dud is so eager to have this experience. So how do you tap into, because they're both casual characters and Dud is, I think, instantly iconic and the dude has been famous for a while. So how do you tap into that leisurely quality that people are familiar with, but then have someone who's so laid back, but also at the same time so eager and has such like an enthusiasm for life and finding new things instead of not caring?
Thanks for being a fan, man. For me, it's always just what's on the page. So you got to really like the character and the script and the way the guy interacts with everybody. And there's no real magic sauce to anything. You just have to talk with the creators. You do it a certain way. They make fixes and changes. They give you ideas. And at the end of the day, it really is what's on the page for me. That way, then I can feel free to create different stuff. I can feel free to come up with an idea that's usually bad and gets thrown away, but every once in a while it'll stick, you know. But it's mostly about understanding the character and feeling free to be able to create within the character that you're given.
Cool. One more question.
Hi. Thank you very much. It was very interesting listening to you. And congratulations on the new season.
Thank you very much.
And I'm curious about Ingrid Goes West. I love that movie. The first time I saw it in the theater, it felt like a comedy. The second time I saw it at home, it felt like a drama. I was tapping into the sadness of the story. And I'm curious, when you were reading the script and filming it, did you think you were filming a comedy or a satire? Or did you know it was a drama? Or, I mean, what was your notion about it?
I didn't know what we were doing.
Great
that's one of those movies where you're sort of hired to be, Matt Spicer, the director, thought, you know, you could be good as this character. And I was like, all right, cool. And I showed up to work every day and I did the scenes, but I'm not a part of like the greater story, so I don't really know what's happening. I don't know how they're playing it because those scenes could be played a million different ways. And Aubrey Plaza, when I saw it, was so fucking good as Ingrid, as that character, that it really took on different tones at different times. So I didn't, honestly, truth to hand to God, I had no idea what movie I was in. I was just doing my parts and my role as Matt would tell me, you know, hey, go over here and do this and, you know, improv this here and whatever. And then he puts it together and makes the experience that you enjoyed. So I had nothing to do with any of that.
Thank you very much.
All right, Wyatt, thank you so much for being here today.
Man.
Thank you guys for checking this out. Thanks for watching. Check out Lodge 49 on AMC now. Thanks.